You've seen me study for hours on end in medical school, and you've asked me how I stay motivated. But you see, it's not about motivation. It's about having a system that sets you up for success. If you watch this short video until the end and follow my 5-step system, then I promise you that you will see results. Let's get started with step 1, which is to forgive yourself for not being motivated all the time. We tend to beat ourselves up because we don't take the time to understand the nature of motivation, which is that it usually comes in bursts. To help you understand this, I'll ask if you've ever been motivated to start a diet. So motivated, in fact, that you could just feel it in your bones that this is the one that was going to go the distance. But slowly with time, your motivation goes lower and lower, and you get hungrier and hungrier until eventually you can't take it anymore, you cheat on your diet, and you feel terrible about yourself for who knows how long. The same thing applies to studying. You can have all the motivation in the world to sit down, study hard, and take control of your life, only to find yourself in a social media rabbit hole 30 minutes later. Motivation is just not everlasting, and you can't expect to have it forever. This system is all about working despite not feeling like it, because trying to be motivated all the time is a fool's game. Forgive yourself for not always having motivation, understand that it's not your ultimate priority anyway, and move on to step 2, which is to break down your main goal into smaller, bite-sized pieces. If you didn't feel like studying, but I told you right now to get off your phone and read 3 chapters of your boring chemistry book, you'd probably tell me to get lost. But if you didn't feel like studying, and I told you that all you needed to do was read 1 page of that same book, and I would get out of your hair, you might do it just to shut me up. Now think of me as your subconscious, and use this trick to get the ball rolling on your studying. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Well, thanks for nothing, genius. It's not like reading 1 single page of any textbook is going to get me anywhere. What's the point? I get what you're saying, but the secret here is that being productive is all about momentum, and the hardest part is usually just sitting down and getting anything started at all. I always have a to-do list ready before I start my day, and one thing that's always on that to-do list is to do my morning skincare routine. Now, you might be thinking, what's the point of putting your skincare routine on there? Aren't you gonna do that anyway? Well, yeah, I probably will. But even though it's the simplest thing to do, and even though it requires little to no effort, crossing it off of my to-do list literally never gets old, and it always gets me started on the right foot. And on top of that, setting these small goals and achieving them is a great way to build respect for yourself, which almost always translates to more work done. Now moving on to step 3, we want to eliminate as many distractions as possible to set ourselves up for success. You wouldn't blame a cat for chasing around a laser pointer because it's simply in their nature to do so. And for better or for worse, checking our phone when it's around us and available to us is something of an instinct now too. If you leave your phone on during a study session, you're gonna spend every minute of that study session debating whether or not you should finally reach for your phone. And even if you make it throughout that whole study session without touching your phone, you're not going to have been as efficient as you could have been because instead of focusing on the work, you were focusing on not touching your phone. For me, I found that turning my phone's ringer off wasn't enough because I would still see my phone light up. And then I found that turning on Do Not Disturb mode wasn't enough because I would still check my phone to see if there were any messages. And then I found that turning my phone off entirely wasn't enough because it takes like 5 seconds to turn it back on. The best thing that works for me and what I recommend you try is turning your phone off completely and putting it either out of sight or in a different room. I know it sounds like it's just a minor change, but I think you'd be surprised at how well it works. Now, I think it's worth mentioning that your phone isn't the only thing that can get you distracted. For example, try your best to clear your workspace before you start working of anything that you're not using to either study or get work done. It can also be helpful to silence your family members or roommates one way or another, or if you're a nicer person than that, consider some form of noise cancellation, whether that be headphones or some white noise, to focus on your studying. Moving swiftly on, step 4 is about being realistic with your study schedule goals and taking breaks. One of the biggest mistakes I see people making is setting unrealistic goals for their study sessions with the thought that it will motivate them to do more. However, the only thing that setting unrealistic goals typically accomplishes is that no matter how well you do during your study session, you are always going to end up feeling like a failure afterwards because you set a goal that was impossible to reach. If you fall into a pattern of never feeling like you want to study, maybe one of the big reasons for that is because every time you try, you always beat yourself up about not doing well enough. Now, I'm not telling you not to work hard, but taking a break doesn't mean that you failed or that you're lazy. It just means that you recognize your limits and are using an honest and calculated approach to studying. And when you do take breaks, it's very important to take breaks that are completely separate from studying. Remember, you've put in the work, you've earned this break, you're here to relax in this break, and as soon as the break timer is over, you're gonna get right back to studying. Even if you feel totally exhausted by nighttime, one of the best feelings ever is going to bed feeling like you did everything in your power and that you accomplished everything you set out to do. And if you set unrealistic goals, you will never achieve that feeling and you will always be down on yourself. So set realistic goals, take breaks, and give yourself credit for the hard work that you're doing. Now let's move on to step 5, which is about having a vision to help you through your hardest times. One of the biggest reasons you probably don't feel like studying is because it's so easy to forget why we do it in the first place. When you go to work, you come home with a paycheck. When you cook something, you come back with a delicious meal. But when we study and we sit down for hours on end, what do we have to show for it by the end of it? And even if we go out and we get that great grade on the quiz or the test, it doesn't change our lives overnight. This feeling that studying is a pointless time sink can be pretty hard to shake at times, and the best way to get past that feeling and get to studying can be to have a vision of exactly what you want to achieve in the future. Now, if you don't have a clear vision of exactly where you want to go, that's totally fine and completely understandable. But ask yourself some questions to help yourself get an idea of where you might want to go. For example, ask yourself why you want to study. Maybe it's because you want good grades. Okay, why do you want good grades? Maybe it's because you want a 4.0. Okay, why do you want a 4.0? Well, I want to be at the top of my class. Okay, well, why do you want to be at the top of your class? Well, maybe you want to get accepted into Harvard or to get a really good scholarship, or maybe even to get into medical school. Now, every time you feel like studying is pointless, I want you to think of yourself holding that Harvard acceptance letter, getting that scholarship check, or getting that acceptance call into medical school. And the more clear you can make your vision, whatever it might be, the better, because it will help remind you of why you're going through all of this in the first place. Visualize exactly where your studying will take you so that you can put in that work more easily and smile wider in the future. Now, if you enjoyed this video and you're ready to study, click here for a study with me video. If you're on a well-deserved break right now, click here for a vlog. Please like and subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys and I'm wishing you the best of luck. Peace.